scene from a blockbuster movie. Satellite debris ignites a collisional catastrophe, destroying spacecraft and killing astronauts. The scenario is dramatic and far from fiction. Asteroids are no longer the only cosmic objects to threaten life on Earth. Since the beginning of the space age in the late 1950s, rockets have carried thousands of spaceships and satellites into orbit. Now, defunct rocket stages, fuel tanks, and millions of nuts and bolts litter the Earth's atmosphere like a huge cosmic garbage dump. They pose a threat to over 1,000 satellites and the International Space Station. Some will eventually fall back to Earth and endanger human life.
Space debris is any man-made item that's in space, say orbiting the Earth, that is not functional, which means it could be a dead satellite or something that kind of drifts away from the space station.
The U.S. Space Surveillance Network has been tracking over 22,000 pieces of debris larger than 4 inches. Most reside in low Earth orbit, approximately 600 miles above the planet's surface. In the vacuum of space, objects can stay for over 100 years because there's no air resistance. But they will eventually undergo orbital decay and lose energy because even at these altitudes, there's a very slight atmospheric drag. As a result, the Earth's gravity will eventually tug them back down into its atmosphere.
The time it takes for a piece of debris or even a satellite to come back down from space depends on its altitude, basically. The closer you get to Earth, the shorter the time it takes to come down. So basically anything within the low Earth orbit will come down relatively quickly.
Space junk at altitudes below 370 miles can fall back to Earth in a few years. Most debris burns up during atmospheric re-entry and vaporizes. However, stronger pieces made of stainless steel and titanium can survive tremendous heat. Once below the dense regions of the atmosphere, they literally free fall to the ground.
At a nice altitude, like say 60,000 feet or so, they're basically falling vertically and land at a relatively low velocity, 150 miles an hour, and hit the ground. You can typically hear a shock wave or something like that as they come in.
They may look like gigantic abstract sculptures, but these are actual recovered space junk that crashed onto Earth.
What we have here is a piece of titanium rocket state. They basically just circled the Earth for 9 years and decided to come down, and it landed in Saudi Arabia and was found by the Bedouins out in the desert. This is the second stage of a vehicle that was used to put a satellite in orbit. This one's about 570 pounds. Stainless steel. Would have been a bad day for somebody to be under it. We want to really understand how this thing survived, why it survived, and try to take that into account when we start designing new vehicles.
As much as 1,400 tons of man-made material has already reached the surface of the Earth. In 1997, a hot piece of metal from a Delta II rocket fell from the skies over a populated area of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
One woman was out doing her laps on a track very early in the morning, and this piece of stuff came down and brushed her on the shoulder. That, as far as we know, is the first time that anybody was touched by a piece of debris.
The international space community now imposes new design requirements for most objects being launched into space to ensure controlled re-entries.
Well, we developed a little device we call a re-entry breakup recorder, and this is a quarter-scale model of that. It's designed to be attached to a piece of debris that's going to be re-entering the atmosphere. Then it records accelerations and rates and pressures and temperatures and so forth, and then it makes a satellite phone call on the way down to transmit its data. And the objective, of course, is to bring it down into a safe area, like the South Pacific, where you don't worry about hitting someone.
So far, Most of the new re-entry technologies won't have any effect on the thousands of pieces of old debris already in space. Time is running out to stop the man-made objects and the space rocks from falling onto Earth.